goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Conton, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Singular filmmaker. What is going on here? I think we're going to have a Laffy Daffy episode here.
We are. We're going to have a
different.
lot of filmmakers on here on this episode. So we're on episode 140. We've taken a little bit of a break. We thought we were going to have a couple because a lot of people know this. We bulk record.
Yeah,
a lot of our episodes.
It helps.
It helps
because of kind of things that happened that we had to miss last week.
We had one. We ended up with May having one episode short.
Yep.
So we didn't have one for the last week of May, which we're like, okay, no problem. We'll record that weekend, and then stuff happened, life stuff, and ultimately we didn't get a chance to record as soon as we wanted to. So we're getting this one out, but actually it worked out to its benefit because we've got a two-part type episode going on today. We've got a review of an indie film that's going to be premiering in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
This week, I believe. I think it's either this week or next week.
I'll go. Let me.
We're gonna find out for real.
I'm gonna get the exact.
But
cover me.
We're gonna be finding out this movie that's gonna be premiering sometime this week or next week. And we've also got a conversation with the filmmakers behind this film, which is really awesome.
Yeah, this is one of the coolest things we get to do in the podcast is actually support independent cinema.
Yes.
It's not always just shitting on Halle Berry movies. We actually get to talk about movies that
we actually like.
Whether it's like Texas Cotton or Luke and Joe, hopefully that these filmmakers ended up becoming big time, and we'll be like, remember we
talked to them first. Yeah. We're going to be reviewing the film Luke and Joe, which is a drama by director Joshua Overbay. I think I pronounced his name right, Overbay.
We'll be corrected if not.
We'll be corrected. He'll tell us you said it wrong. I'm not a fan of dramas. By any stretch of the imagination, they're probably my least favorite of types of movies. And yes, that is a dog that's carrying a bone in the background. If you can hear it,
it's supposed to quiet him.
Yeah, he actually ate one of our microphone cables earlier today. So.
He did not eat Elaine. That's
no, he did not eat Elaine. He's not here. But drama is I think a hard nut to crack. Just because with horror you have kind of a built-in audience, and with sci-fi comedy everyone kind of likes to laugh, and drama is one of those things where it's like you really have to be really good at filmmaking to be able to tell a competent drama,
especially on an independent level like this. This is the toughest thing to do.
Yeah.
There was we had a situation where in one of our classes, Russ Striner and John Russo of Night of Living Dead fame, they came to talk to us, and they said that we didn't set out to do a zombie movie. We wanted to do a Western, but we didn't know anybody that had horses, and we didn't think we could afford to do that. And then we decided, we'll do a horror movie, because they're a little less expensive. And you can cut a little corner here or there. So doing a straight up character drama like this,
it's tough.
It's ballsy, and I really think they pulled it off.
I do too. So just to give a little background on this film. So this film, I believe it was made in 2017, 2018, and then had a couple screenings, and now it's actually been picked up by Narrative Films. Which is a distribution company founded by a friend of the show, Tyler Russell. Mm-hmm. I believe he's involved with it. He's running it, and then our friend Travis from Row House,
Travis
is also involved in it. So it was great for them to reach out to us to talk about this movie, and
we got a screener here, guys. We're big deals.
We're big deals. Big deals. So this film, which, as I mentioned, it's got a Pittsburgh premiere. Did you find out the date?
June 16th.
June 16th. Okay, so if you're in Pittsburgh and you're listening to us, this episode is going to come out this week. So we're recording on Sunday. It's going to hopefully come out on Monday.
And I can genuinely tell you guys that the cinematography is great. The audio is great. When I say independent film, I'm not talking about some schmuck who picked up a camera, had no idea what he was doing,
right.
And it's laughable.
And we're going to get into that part.
But this is an independent film, but this is still, it will feel like you're going to any other movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So June 16th. Did you get time?
I believe it's actually 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. So go down to Row House in Pittsburgh and take a look at Luke and Joe. I mean, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this. We're not going to spoil the movie, which is going to be hard because our reviews tend to be that
That's
way.
That's our bread and butter.
So ultimately, this film is it's a character drama, as we said. It's about two different people. So you're getting two different stories that are kind of colliding. One is the character of Luke, who is a struggling screenwriter. Who is ultimately dealing with a lot of the realities of Hollywood. And that was the one strength I saw in at least this part of the film, was that, you've got moments in it where Luke, who's kind of very much like us, it felt very autobiographical.
Yeah.
As someone who's really passionate about the business of telling stories.
He's not jaded yet.
He's not jaded.
He thinks like he could, he wants to change the world with his storytelling.
Yes.
And then everybody in Hollywood's like, how do we make money off of this?
Yeah. And even like every single character that he meets while he goes to this film festival that his screenplay is a finalist in, every person that he meets is, for the most part, kind of sleazebag, scumbag Hollywood type. Like they either want to exploit it, they don't hold much credence for the festival itself. Everything that you could think of in terms of, cliche Hollywood is there. And he's viewing it as his last real spot to kind of, make his dreams happen.
Well, it reminds me of like a wedding. Like there are some people that are there because they absolutely love the bride and groom. Yeah. And there are some people there who they just want to get drunk.
Yeah,
and then there's there's a lot of people. There's even a scene at this film festival where the guy's just turning around to get a shot, and he's like, "Hey, I have a script that is in the finals," and he's like, "Yeah, great, awesome," and then just turns around.
I mean, I've been to film festivals, and honestly, like that is true.
Yeah,
that is absolutely 100% true. And I think that is indicative of the industry, at least at that level. You have a lot of people, which I like to call them playing Hollywood. Yeah. Like they're people that. They make movies, and they might have had a inkling of success and now think that their shit doesn't stink. Yeah. So you definitely have those characters distilled in this film that are a good play between Luke, who is very much a purist, and even when he is dog's talking, even when he is describing his screenplay. He describes it, he's at the one scene that's in this, he's at a meeting with Hollywood executives, and he's describing his film. And, of course, the back and forth that's visually portrayed, you get this back and forth that, he is very much pure story and really wants to get a message across, which, again, I feel that is giving us insight into his character, because it is very much about a mother and son story. Like, that's his screenplay.
Yeah.
Which you're like, was his mom crazy?
Yeah.
Because he did say that he does have some issues with his mom in this film. But you do get the Hollywood executive just wants to kind of get butts and seats,
completely
and
bastardize it, destroy the entire ending and whole purpose of the movie. It reminds me of the movie The Player with Tim Robbins.
Yes,
where the one guy has a dream and they just want to completely have a happy ending, and the guy ends up changing it because of all the money that's going to come from that.
Absolutely.
But he is so into his work, like in a good way. I don't want that to sound, but that like. He doesn't want it to be bastardized so much. He takes his one golden chance, and instead of like just playing ball in hopes that, maybe someday down the line I can make my true artistic statement, he completely self-sabotages. But in a way, I don't even know if it's self-sabotage. I think he just kept the purity of his work intact.
Yeah. I think it, and without giving too much away, I think honestly, that scene, which he does kind of self-sabotage, it's him lashing out at everything, because you also get kind of a look at the fact that, you know, his dream is having an impact on his marriage and his relationship with his family and that sort of thing. And I think that, again, it's something that people like us who are creative struggle with. I think when you do know people who are not necessarily creative, they don't necessarily get why you have to do this.
Yeah.
Why it's like, you don't understand. Like, for someone else who can just say, well, I can just sit on the couch and just watch TV, or I can, look at Facebook, or I can look at this. It's like, you don't understand. Like, for me, if I don't do my films, or if I don't make something, or if I don't do this, it's like part of me isn't living. And I think for non-creative people, it's hard to see that. And it's illustrated perfectly in this, between the dichotomy of him and his wife, his wife is very much practical. We need money. This isn't paying the bills.
We got a kid. Yeah,
we got a kid.
And
I mean, you could honestly say, and like, I'm not trying to say the wife is wrong. The wife is absolutely 100% right. He has responsibilities, and it's like your dream is clashing with the responsibilities that you have. So there's a great play, and that helps the drama of this.
But that's Luke, isn't there?
That's Luke.
And Joe.
There is an and Joe in this, and Joe's story is one about what I felt was, it's a self-destructive story. She's filling a void in her life that is honestly left by having an absentee father. Which
a very
manipulative absentee father. And, she couples it with booze. She couples it with, bad relationships with men who are toxic.
Yeah. Speaking of self-sabotage, she right off the bat, she misses a huge gig.
Yes.
Because of everything that's going on in her family life.
So it's ultimately, again, they're both creative people, but they're dealing with struggles in different ways. Whereas Joe's is more of a internal struggle, I think. Where Luke's is more external. He's dealing with external forces that are getting in the way of his dreams, where Joe is dealing more with her own internal struggles. And it's interesting when they both cross paths in this, how for the moment of the movie, they do reach an equilibrium, where those struggles aren't there, and they're considered outside of the scope of the world. And when they do start to interfere, that's when the drama does happen.
Because the inciting event is she nearly kills
Joe
nearly kills Luke by hitting him with a car.
Yeah,
and it's like it was two people that needed to be brought together, and almost by something so horrific.
Yeah,
they end up getting a friendship out of mutual suffering.
Yeah,
and the tagline for this movie is "When you meet the right person at the wrong time,"
and that's absolutely perfect. It distills it down. Without giving the whole movie away. I think we gave a lot.
It's getting hard to talk about
because it's getting hard. We're going to try to reel us back.
Yeah.
So some things that I technically, because we are reviewing this and not really trying to give the whole plot away. Technically, I felt that this was a really well made movie. Cinematography in this was, along with acting, one of the strongest suits in this.
Yeah, you get nervous when there's an independent film, because you just don't know. But I mean, I don't think narrative films would have partnered if it had been junk. But you see it and it's like, okay, the sound is perfect, the cinematography is good. A thing called color grading, if you don't know what that is, in post production you can kind of change the color to help with the mood of the film, the story you're telling. That was on point as well. They got great actors to be in it.
Fantastic actors.
They did what they needed to do. And I mean, obviously the story's good too, but we don't want to go into too much detail and give too much away.
Cinematography was done by Nathaniel Glass, which I gotta mention him absolutely, because I was blown away by the cinematography. There were a couple of things that I thought could have been improved. Namely, there's a scene in this where there is a bit of a kind of a raw type feel. So they do kind of go with a shaky cam feel to it. And as has been pointed out in other reviews, and I did feel that could have been used a bit more sparingly. But I mean, aside from that, the pace of this movie was really great. I love the use of color. I'm someone who talks about color grading in films all the time and its power that it can be used. And there were even moments like in the beginning of the film when Luke is talking to his wife, it almost looks like they saturated Luke's face more compared to his wife's face, where she was almost desaturated, like he had that spark in him still, where she didn't, and just it was never there. And things like that, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know, but like things like that, add a little bit extra to an already great film. You mentioned the acting, fantastic actors. And especially with this type of movie, which we found out later, as I didn't know this, that a lot of the dialogue in this was improv.
Oh yeah,
a lot of the dialogue was improvised.
A big point here, and when we talk to them, I'll be interested to see exactly what percentage that was.
Yeah,
because like they were good at it. It didn't seem like they were saying the same thing over and over because they didn't know what to say, or it wasn't. I don't think either of these two actors came from like a comedic background, because you don't get like Ghostbusters 2016 where everything's a Second City bit, instead of actually how people talk. But there is something to be said about that, where it's more organic. Like, and I think that's why they did a lot of free cam, but they didn't lock it down. And
that's not to say it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't my personal cup of tea. Like, I'm a fan of using that shaky type cam a bit more sparingly. But that isn't I don't want to take away from the whole cinematography of this film. I thought on the whole, the cinematography of this was fantastic. I love the going back and forth between, the frontal focus shots and the rear focus shots, and just that back and forth. It made it for a very rich film. But no film is 100% perfect.
Right. Yeah. So I would say go check this out if you can. I think that this film is going to get a lot of attention.
I hope it does, because there's not a whole lot of dramas, as I said, on the indie level that you can say like completely suck you in. I was sucked in on this film. There wasn't one time I was.
It was a quick 90 minutes. This film's about 90 minutes. And it seemed like it went by quickly. And I'm always the one on the show that says they could have cut out 15 minutes. Like, I think that they probably... I'm guessing this movie was maybe 2 hours, and they got it down to 90.
Yeah.
Or maybe 105 and got it down.
And I will say the ending is not typical.
Right.
Of this. I don't want to give everything away, but the ending is not typical. These types of movies...
I thought it was going to go a certain
I thought it was
way,
too.
And it didn't.
I thought it was going to go a couple different ways.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's nice. Is to go into a movie and not have in your head, kind of what it's going to end up being. Because you could look at other films that kind of are similar. Like Lost in Translation was the one thing that I thought of when I was watching this movie. But it didn't follow that at all. It didn't end that way at all.
It didn't even have Bill Murray in it.
No, it didn't. So, it was nice to see, an ending that was not what was expected for a movie like this. So definitely check it out. June 16th, 3 p.m. Row House Cinema. Take a look. We're going to jump over to an interview, right?
Yes.
We're going to jump to right now.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be John on his own interviewing, or it's going to be John and Lane. We're not sure.
Yeah.
Because Lane's not feeling well. But here's the interview with you're going to be interviewing Joshua and the lead actress, I believe.
Yes.
Do you like the solar system?
Yeah, it's quite cool, planets and stuff.
All right, and we are back with the interview segment of our show here. I am joined by the creative forces behind Luke and Joe. I have co-writer and director Josh Overbay, and I'm also joined by co-writer, actor, producer, and as far as I'm concerned, star as well. She didn't want to say that, but I'm saying it. Andie Morgenlander. Thanks guys. Thanks for joining us here on the Psycho Show. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. I mean, the easiest place to get started is, how did you guys get into film? How long have you been doing this? And then we'll talk about Luke and Joe.
Yeah, so thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. We're
super excited to be on air with the Psychos.
The Psychos Nation.
Yeah. I'm Andie. I originally shifted to film and writing and more of the storytelling angle from acting when I was living in Louisiana. I was pretty focused on acting at the time, went to school for acting, and was signed with an agency in Louisiana, and started to become really enchanted with what the industry was offering young women in terms of roles and representation. So really felt ready to take a step back and move more towards a place where I could support other young women and create really, really amazing, juicy, full roles. Because I would look around at all my friends and their lives and then look at these roles that I was getting called in on, and there was something that was discordant about that. So that's kind of the thing that led me to become more of a writer and a storyteller. And then I just fell in love with being involved in this huge, long process of filmmaking when you're not about. And I love that you could be there from the beginning, from the idea, from the thread, to the final manifestation of it, which is a film being seen and discussed by people all over the world. So yeah, that was kind of the first thing that brought me to it.
Yeah, and I guess for me, my undergrad degree was in theology and philosophy, so totally unrelated. And I took some time in my early 20s and mid-20s to figure out what I wanted to do, and landed on film school. And it took me a couple years to save up the money and to get to a spot financially where I could do it. And then once I got to the point where I could actually take film classes, because I had no experience, I just was like full force, like wanting to take in as much as I possibly could. And I felt really grateful because, especially now, like the notion of having 2 or 3 years set aside just to kind of build a craft, it was an amazing opportunity. And I had worked for a while, like did things like telemarketing and baristaing,
Yeah.
So the idea of being able to set aside and like actually focus on making movies. And when I did, I really fell in love with the craft of directing in particular, and really haven't stopped since then. Luke and Joe's my third feature film, and the way that we did it itself, in terms of just both the methodology and like the relationship between the cast and the director and all those things, was really, really fun. Unorthodox in a lot of ways, but really cool.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I didn't know if this was the first feature or if you've, done others. I would assume there was, because one of the things that we talked about on the show was you guys had impeccable cinematography and sound, which is, especially, with sound, that's always kind of the deal breaker if it's not there. So was that like, people that you worked with before to kind of get like the best out of everybody involved, or was it the first time with the particular crew that you had for this one?
Well, so Nate Glass, who is sort of our third member, he did a ton. So he produced it, particularly in terms of pre-production, and then transitioned into doing all the cinematography. And he and I had ran a business together where we did like commercials and other marketing stuff for 2 years. So we had developed a really great shorthand, especially in that particular role where he's like overseeing, the visual style and design, and I'm working primarily with actors. So, and also like just his general like openness to the moment, given the fact that we were doing improvisation, was just incredible. And then kind of as we continued down the crew, like Aaron Holmes, who did the camera work, he was my operator for my first feature film, As It Is in Heaven. And he's also like a cinematographer that has his own business. And, we wanted someone who could be really reactive to the performances and to feel very free and liberated to, if he feels the impulse to whip pan to the right, because that's what he wants to see, then let him do that. And so it was awesome to have him kind of, in many ways, like holding the wheels of the entire thing, because he's, holding the camera. So yeah, I mean, those were two incredibly key figures.
And then I think the other pretty big player in the creation of the film was our editor, Sam Webb, who is he's a documentary documentary editor, actually. So he was really familiar with getting a lot of footage and having to craft the story with that footage. So since we improvised, we really had to have an editor that was able to find those moments and pull them out and really thread them together in a beautiful way. And he did such an amazing job of that. And he was working with takes that were, had a similar through line, but were pretty different every time. So that was definitely a major part of the reimagining of the film.
And like John Thomas, who did the music, he and I did undergrad together, both studying something completely different. And then later our lives intersected. And I was like, I'm doing film. And he's like, I'm doing music. And, and he did.
Made in heaven. Yeah.
The score is just like a crucial part of the movie. It's not the film without his work. And also he worked directly with Andie in the creation of like the Joe song.
And I really want to hit on the improvisation. So don't let me forget that, but I don't want to get too far ahead of us, of ourselves here. Can you guys tell us, from your point of view as the creators, about Luke and Joe, and how this film came to be and what it's about?
Who wants to go?
I'll start and then Josh can follow. I think we both have sort of different perspectives of how it came to be. But Josh and I were living in separate places at the time, and we reconnected at Sundance Film Festival in 2016. And Josh was basically like, at the end of the week, I've been wanting to make this improvisational script. I hear some of the elements that I have story-wise. Most of them were around Luke's story. It started just being a story about Luke. And he was like, I really want to bring you in to play this woman in the script that Luke, do you want to be in the movie? So the way I came on was, he was like, hey, I want you to co-star in my movie, which I feel like is pretty much every like actor's dream situation of like someone that they know well, just being like, hey, I see you, do you want to be in my movie? And you being like, yes, and not having to do the whole taping audition thing. So anyways, that was amazing. I was stoked about that because I really respect Josh and his work. And I said yes, and he sent me over, he was writing the script or writing a treatment for the script, and he sent it over to me and was like, do you have any notes on it? And most of my notes were around the development of Joe's character. And I sent them back to him, and it really wasn't that long before he was like, I feel like both of us kind of talked about how it seemed like it was Joe's story just as much as Luke's. And Josh brought me on to really support that side of the narrative. And we, from that point on, basically started going back and forth together. I was living in North Carolina. He was living in Louisiana at the time, I think. And so we were just doing this thing where one of us would build on the treatment, send it to the other person, they would build on it. We were just basically tennis balling it back and forth until we got to the treatment we got to. And we would meet up at different places, like drive halfway around the United States, like just would have these really big writing sessions where we would get together. He moved up to Asheville that summer, so then we were like driving between Durham and Asheville to finish the script. It was this pretty big endeavor, but it was super fun because you're just like driving around to random places to sit and make a script. So that was the origin. I guess I'll let you talk about the origin and what it's about for you.
Well, I mean, you captured a lot of it. I think, I was coming out of a separation from my first marriage, and felt really creatively inspired, and knew I wanted initially to do something more autobiographical that had this kind of, like Linklater-esque flow where there was like, it took its time and its unfolding, and it was more like over a smaller period of time. And I didn't want to write dialogue. So I really early on got invested in the idea of improvisation. I think as a director, I've just been fascinated with the kind of performances I hoped could, emerge if you really committed to that as your directing method and your acting method. And so that was a part of it from the beginning. And it's like Andie said, I was writing it very much from Luke's perspective. And I just noticed that a lot of Andie's notes were really precise and sharp and right. And I was like, I can't bring the kind of wisdom and fullness to her character that I know you can. And then from there, it was very much like a co-writing all the way through up until the end. And since even though we didn't have an official screenplay, we had everything defined all the way to like precise, beats in each scene. So the structure of each scene and the structure of each sequence and act was all there. It's just the way that it manifested in terms of how people moved and their dialogue, that was totally improvised.
Gotcha. So, so was the improvisation purely dialogue based, or was there a lot of like freedom in, okay, we're going to just do this scene and see where it fits later, or we're going to just try to do whatever we want in the shot? Like, was it just like, was everything laid out in terms of the blocking and then the dialogue was all improvised, or was there improvisation in other parts of the production?
Yeah. So we had written a really specific treatment that basically said from point A to point B where each scene needed to go. Mm-hmm. So the actors knew that regardless of what they said, they had to go from here to here to here. And because of our the scene that we set, which is at a film festival, a lot of the blocking, there was a lot of freedom with the blocking, but also would be places like a film festival, presenters presenting, so people are sitting in the audience. And there was definitely a good amount of container with the blocking, I would say. Mm-hmm. The scenes being the least blocked were probably the ones with Luke and Joe. So, yeah. So I would say it was definitely, the treatment was the spine of the improvisation. And then we cast actors that were comfortable with that spine, that would just kind of run with it and take chances.
And then we rehearsed. Rehearsal was huge because we were able to then define the beats so that when we got on set, it wasn't like, it's like the discovery, a lot of the discovery had been made. It just still needed to kind of really come into its fullness on camera. So that was great for me because I would walk on set knowing, okay, we've got this emotionally. I've got a sense of the time. Because the other thing that I was really worried about was, with the traditional script, it's like 1 page of script for 1 minute on screen,
Yeah.
And we didn't have that ratio. So I was like, I don't know. I hope it's going to be like, we were aiming for 90 minutes. Somehow we still got there. But so I was often thinking, well, I can't let some of these scenes go on too long or be too short, So otherwise it will feel imbalanced in terms of how it all flows together. And, there were times like when we would discover something better in the scene, and then we would just have to sequence. So we would then have to think, okay, well, when we in scene 22, it did this, and we didn't think it would. So now when we shoot 23 and 24, we've got to make sure it ripples in this way. And we set it up before. Right. So, and you're kind of always doing that sort of mental juggling when you're doing a feature, but it was like more like, I don't know, more intense, I guess, with the improv.
When the first cut of the film, did it fall around 90 minutes, or did you guys have to leave some stuff on the cutting room floor?
We had to leave some stuff on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I think the first one was almost 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and there's the common joke on this show that whenever we review like a new Hollywood release, I without fail usually say it could be 15 minutes shorter. They could do this and that. One thing I did like about the film is it didn't feel 90 minutes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know. It was very like organic, and you got invested in the character, and I really liked the whole Luke's story and Joe's story and how they came together. And it didn't feel like 90 minutes. It felt like shorter, but I mean that like in a good way. So it has a very nice flow to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that's not a question.
That's great.
That's what you aim for, Yeah. For sure. That's awesome.
So, being on an independent level, can you guys talk about how you guys got the film out there and how you continue to get attention and notice for a film like this when you don't have like a big Hollywood studio backing for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's super hard. It's definitely hard. I think that the film festival circuit was the beginning of that, but we hit a lot of regional festivals over the past year and played in a lot of communities that we're really close to, which is super fun, but doesn't like skyrocket your film to viewers, So I think that it's been pretty challenging. We've gotten some really great reviews, which I think has been really helpful. We've been really well reviewed, and I think that whenever narrative films came in and we decided to go with them, that they've been really instrumental in helping us to stay online and on Facebook and on Instagram. They have helped us create some really strong content, which is huge, for engaging with our viewers. But I definitely think as an indie filmmaker, that's one of the toughest things, just because there are so many of us out there, and like you feel like you want to get your film out there, but you also know you have a whole social media full of other film friends that are trying to get their stuff out there. And it's challenging, I think, to do that and not feel like you're sort of pushing yourself into people's spaces. But in a way, you also, I think, do have to do that to get the film out there. So,
and that can be like a full-time job, right? Just the social media aspect of everything.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where like Travis and Tyler with narrative films have been huge, because before social media was essentially me.
You were
running it, as we also did post-production and the film festival circuit, and now we're starting other films. We have full-time jobs. I also teach yoga, so it's like you're doing this and you're like, I hope this is, putting some roots in the ground and bringing some people along. But it's been really nice to see how narrative films has supported us. And I would say, like, to any indie filmmaker, finding a company like Narrative Films that's boots on the ground, that's new, that will go to bat for you. Like, if you can do it, because I feel like it's the best money, like the best support that we've ever spent and placed is in them to help us at this stage of the process, because it just takes so much of a load off of having to do it yourselves with everything else that you've already had to do.
Totally.
Yeah, and they are relentless in a good way. And I mean, hey, I might be a bit biased because Tyler and Travis are friends of mine, but yeah, they're really doing great stuff over there.
You're infomercial.
Yeah, I am not in any way affiliate. Yes, I am. But so yeah, in Pittsburgh, you guys have June 16th at 3 p.m. then at Row House Cinema, correct?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that'll be the first screening in Pittsburgh that we'll have had for the film then.
That's right.
It will be.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're pumped about that. My parents met and both were born and raised right around Pittsburgh. So
oh, yeah?
It's actually a city that's very near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of family up there, so we were kind of stoked whenever Travis and Tyler of Narrative Films threw out that we could screen there. And Row House seems just like an awesome place.
Oh, it's great. And they have the beer port thing right next door, which is so awesome. I don't know if you guys are craft beer people or not, but it's,
We are, yeah.
It's a dream come true for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We're excited about that screening too, because we're screening the short film that another one of my creative partners and I co-directed, called Whistle Down Wind, which is about two women in a small Appalachian town. They're in a secret relationship. No spoilers, but I think it's a great little movie. And we're going to play that before Luke and Joe on Sunday, sort of as our tie to Pride and the Pride celebration that's happening in Pittsburgh and all around the United States. So another really cool thing about our Pittsburgh screening.
Yeah.
And where are some other upcoming screenings that people can check this out if it's in their area?
Well, I think the big two that are preceding Pittsburgh is we're playing in Durham, North Carolina on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. at the Full Frame Theater. And then on
the Thursday screening in Durham is also going to include free beer from Wicked Weed and an acoustic set by my good friend Millie McGuire, who's a young artist who's based in the Triangle. So there's some stuff in and around that event on Thursday at 7:30. Is that funny?
I saw his reaction to Wicked Weed. Right, and then the Friday screening is we're playing at a festival called the Northeast Mountain Film Festival in Dillard, Georgia, on a Friday night at 6:04
p.m. Friday, June 14th.
That's right. So this coming week, and then after that, this is our big launch weekend. So this kind of puts a period on, or maybe an exclamation point on our festival run, and then we're launching domestically online. So that's super exciting because I think the like you had asked earlier, the dilemma of the independent filmmakers, you have to have faith that there's an audience out there for your movie, while also recognizing that the path to getting to them is going to require a lot of emotional, mental gymnastics, and strategy. And so I feel like I'm really grateful for a lot of the positives and successes that we've had till this point. And now it's like finally going to be that the movie's out there, that people can watch it. And hopefully it can find like an audience, because, I think it's got one, for sure.
And what platforms will that be? Would that be like Amazon, or where would people find that once it's widely distributed?
Yeah, it's going to be on Amazon Rentals and then Vimeo on demand, and that's where we're going to start. And then from there, it'll sort of broaden, but that's sort of step one.
And we'll also have Blu-rays and DVDs for sale on our website. So if you want to take it old school, in order.
Hey, it's not too old school.
I wish we had it actually old school. I know, but it is kind of now. Like, I feel like whenever I talk about DVDs, people are like, "What are you talking about?"
Now, if there's like a Laserdisc or Beta copy,
Wait, what?
If there's like Laserdisc or Beta or VHS, now we're talking super old school.
Yeah.
Buy it on tape.
Now it's just any sort of anything that's remotely analog. It's just physical, like a Blu-ray. It's crazy. Yeah.
But I would say, specifically for the Pittsburgh audience, if you have a chance to make it out, this film is going to be successful, and we said it in the mini review. You want to see it before everybody else has a chance, so you could be real hipster about it and say we saw it before it blew up. But everybody who if you're not in one of the areas where the screening is coming, it is going to be, as they said, it's going to be coming out for distribution. We will, on the Psycho Show here, we'll keep you updated when you can check it out, and it would probably be the end of our connection with narrative films if a film wasn't good, but we would have been honest if it wasn't, probably to our own detriment. But I can tell you that this film is wonderful, and it is professionally done, and it's as good as anything that you would see out there. So you're not going to waste 90 minutes. You're going to be fulfilled by checking it out. So once it's out there, please check it out. I can't push independent filmmaking enough, and these two are amazing. So, please check it out, Luke and Joe, if you're in Pittsburgh, June 16th. But we'll keep you updated when it goes nationwide here on distribution on Amazon and Vimeo. Any last closing thoughts here? Any pearls of wisdom? Not to put you on the spot, but no. Any last things here as we kind of wrap up?
I will say, one of the cool things that happened as a result of making the movie. Andie and I are getting married in a couple months, so that's exciting.
Congrats! Yeah.
Yes, that's what I always think. I always want to include that because I think that's the drama behind the drama.
Yeah. I was going to say it's really helpful to follow us on social media.
Yeah.
And also come to the Pittsburgh screening, because we love to talk to people that see our films, and we want to have that opportunity as much after the live screening. So that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow the social medias, all the social. Just I Googled it, and that's where I followed all of it. So you can just find it there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being a part of this and helping us get the word out about the film. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, that was a hell of an interview. Thank you again to Narrative Films for bringing Joshua and Andie on to the show so we can interview them and talk about Luke and Joe. Definitely check this film out. I can't stress that enough. Independent films need support. If you've got a couple bucks, maybe you instead of spending it on coffee one day, you go to check out a movie like Luke and Joe at Row House, June 16th at 3 p.m. Take a look at it.
Yeah. If you're tired of seeing the same damn movies over and over again, like these kind of movies, this is how they get traction. Absolutely. They kind of take it around and they get some notice, and it gets a larger and larger distributions. This is the Pittsburgh premiere of it. So,
Yes.
it's going to be other places, but this is the first time it's going to be in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a very close connection with Narrative Films, and also a connection with Row House Cinema. So, check it out now before it gets big, and then you can be that hipster who's like, I saw it before everybody else did.
That's right, because everybody's got to be the hipster who said I saw it or everyone else did. So yeah, definitely check it out. We'll have links in our show notes with more details on the film and where you can watch it. But definitely check it out. So, John, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
I believe under the Unreal J Wills, you can DM me or message me. You can go nuts.
Where can they find Lane at?
LA_Croft.
You can find me at Brian Keitos from the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or you want to contact us about your screenplay and or music career, you can contact us at cinematopsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and we will see you next time.
Epicast.